Hello and welcome to my sculpting channel. My name is Carlos and today is going to be a little bit different because I want to talk about 3D printing. I'm going to talk about Resin 3D printer. It's going to be a simple guide for beginners. If you just got your printer or if you are planning to get in a Resin 3D printer, this is right for you. I'm going to talk about the difference between the 3D Resin printer and the PLA. That's the one that has a filament. And there's a lot of things to think about with these two printers, so I want to make sure that you know a little bit of both so you decide which one is the best for you. I want to also talk about the 3D printing, how they work. I'm going to show you some of my digital 3D models and I print them in my printer. And also I want to show you a page where you can download free models for your printing. I mean, there are amazing artists that create models that you can download. And you can also give them a tip just to make sure to give thanks for the amazing models that they create. And I want to show you also those models. I'm going to talk about some tips, something that I had to get with my 3D printer just to work just better. I'm going to talk about also why and how you can fix some 3D printer fails. This is going to be an interesting video, so let's start. First of all, we're going to talk about how the 3D printer works. Now you have the PLA, that is the one with the filament. So you have this, let's say that is like a nail that gets really hot and melt the plastic. So it goes from one side, melting the plastic, to the other side to create a layer. And that's going to be important to understand. And it just goes up and create the other layers, goes up, create the other layers, and like that until you have your piece. And your piece, when it's done, it sits on this plate. And that's important to understand when we talk about supports, that we're going to do that in a moment. And the resin printer is completely different and is a little bit faster because instead of going from one side to the other to create a layer of your printing, it prints everything that is in one layer. Doesn't matter how it is. The time of the print is going to affect the size, how you set up your printing. So this is important. And the way it works is that we have the plate on top instead of on the bottom like the PLA. We have it on top, and this one goes down in a completely UV rays, solidify the first layer. It goes up, it goes to the other layer, it goes up, and like that until we have our piece hanging out. So we have the force of gravity affecting it, and that's going to be a different way of thinking when we're thinking about supports. That's how it works. We have the resin that is liquid, that is the one with the UV, that is going to solidify the resin and create the print, and we have the PLA that is just melting the material. Something really important is that it doesn't matter which printer you're using. When you are having your model and you want to print, there's a program for that will slice your piece in multiple layers. So we have our piece, this is a Batman, and we have to tell the program that it needs to create layers. That's how we have to create the files with the layers so the printer can print it. Every single printer has their own programs. This one, the Creality Hallowed one, comes with Hallowed Box. This Hallowed Box is not the best program, but does the job. I had something weird happening where it was kind of floating. So I decided to get another program that is called Leech Slicer. And this one has way more tools. And something I understand about this program, these are free, and the Leech Slicer has a pay version that has way more things that you can do, which if you're printing a lot, maybe it's worth it to have that one. There's another one that is really famous that I hear all the time, the Cheeto Box. And just understand that you need these programs to make sure that create a file that tell the printer how many layers and the shape of the layers so they can print your sculpture. So this is really important to know. And it's interesting because you can use that's a slicer for either one, like I mentioned. I'm going to show you how the resin works. The resin works if you know Photoshop or After Effects or any program that uses mask. It's almost the same thing. Where you see black, the printer, the light won't go through, so it's not gonna get affected, and everything that is white is gonna, what the printer can see, or the lights that reflect can see, and that's the thing that's gonna be printed. Now that we have a program that we can slice, we need to add supports. Sometimes you can print something like this Batman. I printed completely without supports, even without a bed, what they call, that is just an extra layer on the bottom that we're going to talk about in a minute. You can do that. Basically what the supports helps the model to be created. This, because the body and the shape already support the resin, and even over here the ears get support, you didn't really need it. But basically the concept of the supports is, if you have your piece like this, over here this can print completely fine, but when you get to part like this that doesn't have anything here, printing the first layer more than it's going to be really thin, it's going to break. It's not going to be able to maintain the shape for the second layer. So that's why you want supports, to be able to have that. The supports, they break, they get attached to the piece, but they can be removed really easily. Sometimes you have to be careful, but that's the purpose of the support. One thing that I can, a really good tip that I can give you is that you always try to maintain on an angle, and the most important thing, having the face or the part that you don't want to be damaged or to be disturbed, be facing up. And why I'm talking about is, example, this Thanos, I did it on this side, and the quality is just amazing. I'm gonna show you some pictures, but just amazing. And you can see how tiny it is. But the downside, the supports, I think these are the supports, I don't remember, but the supports attaches to the piece, and they create like these circles. So we can say that it damaged this part that now we need to fix. You can sand them, you can do a lot of things to fix that, and you can absolutely, you don't want to be really trying to sand these details. So something to think about it when you're putting it. Over here I have another piece, this Han Solo bust. I was printing it with this to mess around, but this one could have been on the side, and I would avoid. Over here in this one you can see some of the supports on the face, and pretty much over here you can see how actually the supports are working. How these supports were created automatically with the computer. You can like using the ledge slicer, they can create with just one button. Most of the program can create for you. This has probably too many supports. I'm just learning exactly how to do it. It's completely challenging sometimes. So for now I'm doing it that it does automatically, but I can see that sometimes generate way too much support, and that's bad. In this piece, for example, you can see the face of the model is looking up, so I don't have any support on the face. And if Han Solo, I would have done it at 45 degree, it would have probably didn't need the supports on the face. But sometimes the computer does a good job, sometimes does a really bad job. I have another one, this Pegasus for the Zodiac Knights, and I thought it looked good in the program, but it created so many. I'm gonna also put some close up. It put so many supports. I tried to get rid of the supports, and it's just impossible. It's just impossible. They fuse together, and it's really hard. It's a little bit of practice and understanding. Like I was saying, the resin printer, when it's upside down, is different than PLA that you have the model sitting down. So like I said, support is a little bit complicated. You have also different type of support. You have these ones that are really, really light, and you have medium, and you have heavy. So the heavy ones, of course, they're thicker, they're heavy, and the light ones, they're more flexible. They can break easier from your piece. It's something to think about it. In my experience, having a really thin for small pieces is great. I haven't had a good experience with bigger pieces. For the bigger pieces, thicker. Well, I use a medium. The thicker, I think, it has made some mess. It gets, I don't know, I don't like it much. But I will suggest medium for bigger pieces, and small ones can do the light. Everything depends on your pieces. Like I said, supports are really easy to remove. You see this one that I'm doing right now. just with my hands. I have to say that for some that are more complicated, this one super easy, you can see it. Now I'm gonna do a close-up of the Han Solo, but you can see super easy. And sometimes if it is auto, the support will generate support on workplaces that sometimes doesn't really make sense. So for sure it's best to get used to it and try to create your own. But it's just amazing, the quality. Just look the quality about the resin. And we're gonna talk about some of the bad things of the resin, but one of the good things is just the quality is amazing. Okay, now that we kind of know a little bit of supports, if you pay for a program that slice and create the supports, you have more control. You can create the size of the support, even from like the tip that connects to the figure, to the tick. You can just have so much control. So if you're printing a lot, for sure is something that you may want to spend your money on. For me, I'm going to use the free one for now, but like I said, that's how the support works. In this, you have to do it in both. Also, something that I didn't show over here is that you have your piece, you have the support, but you have also this base. This base is the same. You just grab it, and it breaks. It breaks so easy, just like the supports. But like you see over here in the bottom, also I have, actually I can see, like, because it was at the bottom, the resin hasn't cured completely, and it's bad that I'm touching it with my hands. But it's something that, to understand that it's really useful to have this bed. This is going to be attached to the plate, and then it's going to create your figure. When you remove, and that's something that we're going to talk more about the resin, when you remove your piece, it's going to be just so much easier. And this is something that you don't have to worry that much on PLA, I believe. But in resin, I really suggest. I did this Batman without support. It just creates the bed, but it was so close to the bottom of the face that it just, I need to fix it. Let's talk about now the differences, no? And like I said, now that you have your support, now that you have a slice, your piece, doesn't matter which printer you use, you just send it to print, and depending on your printer, you have to check because every printer has different file format. Like the slicer, you can add multiple printers, and depending on which one you need, that's the file is gonna save. So that's something just to think about it. If it is not printing, it's probably the wrong file. The PLA, the good thing is that you can set it up anywhere in your house. The materials, the filament, they're also cheaper. You can find them really easy. The juice, you can set it up anywhere. You don't have to worry about having kids or pets. I mean, of course, there's not really a toy, so you have to be careful. But it's safer than a resin 3 printer. Also, it doesn't smell that much, and that's really good. Some of the downsides is that the quality of the pieces, something that now is kind of a type of a style, is that you can see all the layers completely. Doesn't matter if they're far away, you can see the layers of the 3 printer and say, oh, okay, that they use a PLA printer because I can see all the layers. Also, you don't have that much details. No, we have seen Pokemons all the time that they create, and you don't really see their details of the face, and that's something that could be maybe something that you don't want. Now, we have to understand that 3D printer is not only about creating sculptures. You can create many things. You can create things for your house, like just many things. It's not only, it's just amazing what you can create. And our Resin 3D printer, the good thing is the amazing quality. It just doesn't matter how small you make them. And when I say smaller, I printed Mew that it was super tiny. It just blows my mind. The amount of detail that you can do miniatures, that's a great advantage. And these ones, the resin, you have to be really close. And I'm going to take a photo and zoom in. So you can see that, yes, you're going to see the layers too. But it's not going to be the same. It's going to be just almost invisible. And don't get me wrong, also the PLA, I've seen people that smooth things really well and get rid of the lines of the layers. We have this amazing quality, but the downside is that it smells really bad. If you live in an apartment or if you live in a small house, everyone is gonna smell the resin. It just smells. More when you are printing and it's curing, it's gonna just smell. Another thing is toxic. You have to use a mask, gloves. Is really toxic, so it's also not good for kids, pets, pretty much anyone, because they're not going to be protecting themselves. Most resin 3D printers, they have a cover and they have carbon fan, tries to filter the bad things, but it's not perfect. I mean, the only thing is you just have to be more careful, but they're amazing. And one downside of the resin 3D printers is the cleaning part. You have to clean the plates, you have to clean the base every single time you're printing. You have to clean it. Sometimes if the printer are perfect, you can keep printing, but most likely you have to be cleaning. And the PLA also needs to be like any other machine. You need to take care, you need to do maintenance, but you don't have to clean it that much. There's many things that happen. Also, the top part that is printing, I heard that it gets clogged and you have to replace it or fix it. I mean, nothing is perfect. You have that option, no? So just thinking about it, you're a space where you're willing to do. Maybe the resin printer is not the best for you. Maybe it's the PLA. And that's just something to think about it, to decide which one you want. Now that we know, I'm going to show you some prints that I've done. These are my digital design. I printed this door. It's just amazing. I love it. I'm going to show you digitally. I created and I did it more complex. But just the details. The details. It has these tiny bars on the door that just turn out perfect. And it's just crazy. I created also this sword. Just a weird sword. I didn't even like it when I created digitally. But I wanted to print and it's just the face of my cat. It was gonna be actually a panther, but it looked more like a cat. But look at the details. This one you can create anything using Blender. It's a 3D program, and just amazing. You have to be careful. This was a well, and you can see that I was able to print certain things, but it was so fragile that it has so many supports, just didn't turn out really well. I also want to talk about this was my first character that I created in 3D, this woman that was trying to be saved from a scorpion that I created too. But something that I want to mention in this one, you can see that she's missing an arm. My scorpion is missing some of their body. Because something that I want to talk about also is that even if it is plastic, even if it is printed and solid, if you drop them, if you hit them hard, they will break. So they're just gonna break. And that's something to think about it. I create also this cat. I drop it and sadly just, like I said, they can break really easy. Even if the details are just amazing. No, and it's really cool to create your own things and see them live, even though they're not that perfect. I'm still learning. They're not the best. I also created this axe. Kind of cool, the details. I'm going to show you also. And something that I want to talk about. This one, the chain was, I mean, it printed out, but removing it was really hard with the supports. So just think about the supports, how many in places that are really thin. You're going to have to be careful. You cannot just do it like I did it with this one with your hand. Sometimes I use a tool or a knife or something that it will cut, and that could help you. I printed this ball that was that I created attached to my axe, but this spike thingies, actually they hurt. It was really hard to remove it, and I was surprised of that. Something to think about it. This is my creations, not the best, I know. I know some people don't get excited, they want to see the good stuff. I already showed most of them. I want to show you these ones. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Are from the webpage Thinkiverse, and there are many pages that you can download 3D models. And like I said, if you can give them a tip to the creators, I mean, so they can keep creating. That will be awesome. We have like there's really there are so many shapes. There are dinosaurs, there are turtles, there's a 3D print and is octopus. But what is amazing is that it printed the legs. They're together. No, I showed it to a friend and he thought I put them together, but no, it printed completely mobile. No, it can't fly. It can move. It is every single thing is attached, and that's the way it printed. And it's just amazing, that technology. We have the Batman that you saw already. You see the details. And this one downside about the Resin 3D printer, at least the one that I have, is that you cannot really print that big. I've seen some people that they cut their pieces and they print just separate pieces to create something giant, and they just glue them together. But for one piece, you cannot really do that big, which is okay. I already showed the Thanos. I created 2 Thanos for my brothers. I'm gonna give this to them after I fix the holes and I paint them. I'm gonna do that in another video. I'm gonna do the same thing with these ones. I'm gonna remove everything, paint it, and see how they turn out. Like I said, these models are gonna be in the description. One of them that I love the most and is my favorite, and it turned out well. I need to fix some details, but it's this from my favorite Naruto. But it's a Pikachu, and it's a Kakashi Pikachu. Even reading the book, amazing the details. It has texture on the mask, on the arm. It has some texture, and I never seen that before in the other one, that you can print this texture, and it just blew my mind. It has some defects. Like I said, when you print, you have leftovers. Like I repeat again, if I push this tail a little bit too far, it will break. So there's many things to think about it after you already print the resin. But it's just amazing. This is the highest or the biggest sculpture that I could do, because you have more space, but because you have to be aware the machine, when you put your piece, is going to create the supports and it's going to create the bed and the bottom. You make it a little bigger than the piece. So sometimes just this, I think it was like this that I printed. But it's amazing. It's a decent size. I cannot complain. And I love it. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna repair, painting, and show it to you here. After you're printing your piece, there's a thin layer of resin that is not cured. So that one you have to have beside your printer a washing station. You can buy one, and there is actually not only the washing station, but also there is the curing station, because when you finish printing your 3D print, it's not completely cured, so you have to put it under UV light to be able to cure it. I'm going to show you in a moment. But something important that I want to talk about is that washing station to wash your piece, usually the resin, you need alcohol to do that, but there is some washable resin that means that you don't need alcohol, you can use water. So because I didn't want to have the extra step, I decided to buy these ones that they are washable. You need just water, and that's it. So I'm gonna show you, I don't know if I'm pronouncing right, this company is Elige, and they have their own resin 3D printer, and I heard that they're really good. This one I just got the resin. You can see over here even they have all the colors. This one is the clear blue, but they have yellow, green, beige, blue, white, and so on. The same thing goes with this one. This one has also many colors, and the one that I'm choosing is the gray. I have another gray from Elige. You can see the difference. The quality is a resin that is a little bit darker, and the Elige the resin is a little bit more clear. No, I'm hoping that I'm not mixing those resin, but it's something just to think about it. If you buy any resin, most of the resin printer will tell you that they need a 405 nm resin, and that's pretty much the intensity of the UV light that is going to cure the resin. So, but usually most of the resin are like that. There are many technologies and they're evolving, and that's why you have to check that. but you just have to get any resin that is compatible, and you can, like I said, they're washable, that you can use water, and they're the regulars, but you need alcohol for that. Okay, now I want to talk about what you need when you buy your Resin 3 printer. I mean, it comes already with a lot of things. Mine, it came with this spatula. It's really strong. It cannot really be bent. Also came with a brush, I think. No, actually the brushes came from the resin. It has these filters, and I think that's it. Oh no, it has also, of course, a manual, and it has the plastic base. You're gonna have a tray where it's gonna be just a plastic that is gonna have those plastic that I mentioned attached on the bottom. And that one you're gonna have to change it when the other one gets used too much, and it comes with a replacement, so that's really useful. But that's pretty much it. I've seen from other companies from those having the same printer that they got a little bit more stuff, so when buying things, look for the one that give you most. Sometimes they raise the price, so you need to be careful. Problems that happened was that when I wanted to return, because something that you have to do is return your leftover of your resin, or if you have a failed resin, you have to put that resin back to the container especially, so the UV light doesn't go inside. And that's something that I also wanted to talk about. You cannot put your printer in close to a window, because you have the sun, and the sun has UV light, so it will cure your resin, and you don't want that. So when I was putting these filters, it just doesn't fit, and it has I mean, the resin will go from the side, and it will be a mess, and it's just something that you don't want. So you need to buy, me that is a washer, I just put a container with water. You need to have gloves. Also, I have this mask that looks a little bit too much, but it covers the eyes, it covers your mouth, and you have to use it during the whole process. You need it, because resin is really toxic, more when it's liquid. Working in some of my pieces, like this one over here, this is a replica that I did on my sculpture with resin, but this one was liquid resin that I mixed two parts, and I create the piece. I have touched this resin, and yes, it irritates the skin, but it wasn't that much. Like, I also touched this resin and immediately it started burning. So for sure this is like more corrosive, and it's just protect your hands, protect anything. Something that you have also to get is a mat. I got this mat that is kind of plastic. Something that you have to understand is any place that you work with resin, if it is not covered and the resin gets into clothes, into your desk, you're just gonna get ruined. So something to think about it while working with resin. One thing also that I bought is this lamp. You can see clever people creating a curing chamber, and this is what I was talking about. Is that because it's not cured completely, you need UV light to finish curing. Normally what I do is just set it up and put it like 10 minutes and turn it around, 10 minutes, or even less, 5 minutes, and just turn it around and turn. And that's how I cure them. When they're small pieces, I was doing it at the same time too. But it's something that you have to do, cure them. And let's talk about removing your piece from your. You are excited because it really printed. But I have here this. Well, probably you won't be able to see. I'm gonna do a close up. This is the face of. This is the face of a model that I printed, and I was excited because it was the only thing I was trying to print, the octopus, and this one. The octopus didn't turn out well that time, but this one, it didn't have a bed. So that was what I was talking about. When you try to remove, it wasn't other way to do it than I mean, it broke. So it's something to think about it that way. Now I put beds on all my pieces because it's just so much easier to go at it and not worry about damaging the base because it's not part of your sculpture. So you have to be careful. A lot of people like to buy other ones that are more plastic, that are more bendable, that are more simple, to try to damage less. I think I don't really have much problem when you get used to it. When you just get in one corner and you start going around, it becomes really easy to remove them. One thing, well, actually I did two things really bad. One thing, I was doing something and suddenly I know I shouldn't have done it, but on my base, on the plastic and the layer where you put your resin, I just tried to remove something and I scratched that one. So that's really bad. Never use this on your, you can put a picture over here, but on where you put your resin, because it's so easy to damage. There are some plates, some magnetic plates that you can buy, and that will kind of glue itself to the base, and when you remove the plate you can just twist it and the piece will pop up. I didn't find one for my printer yet, but haven't looked that hard either. So if I get one I will show it to you, but it's something also to think about. It's time for cleaning. To clean my pieces, like I say, I just put water. The Thanos one that you can see, that they're actually the best pieces that I have. They're just small and they're just, the details are amazing. The only thing I did is shake them in water. I wasn't really doing it that much, and I think they turned out really well. When I have this bigger piece like Pikachu, I tried to do it, but I saw like now the layer that I was talking about. I think I used a brush and I was able to take most of it, if not all. It was just easier. And with the Batman, I think I used the brush just to make sure, and you can tell and you can see how it takes that layer off. But like my Han Solo and my Thanos, I just did the water with anything else to be more gentle and try not to damage any details. In my conclusion, doing all these three is that I think it will depend. I think just with the water could be okay. I've seen some people doing really hard and go at it. I think I use really hard in this Batman and I don't see it has some damage, and that's something else that I did wrong. I didn't want to do it, but I was actually cleaning my spatula on my water, and for a second someone called me. I turned around and when I went back I put it on my resin on the printer, so some water came out, and I still be able to print this one and these two, even if I can see, and I'm going to show you a picture. I don't know if you can notice there is some separation, and I think that's the water. That's something that I'm pretty sure you shouldn't do. And I think this is what happened here. In this one, I kind of put the resin in the bottle and I check it really well. Even some bubbles came out, and but it's still printing really well. But basically, I think just with water, shaking it should be enough. You put it in a big bucket and do it hard. I think that will be the best. Like I say, use gloves. After doing that is when you use your UV light and you start curing your piece. Now you have just to clean your printer, and this you have to remove the plate on top. Well, you already remove it because you have to take out your piece. So you clean that, the same thing, just with water. I have some these pieces of cloth that I got to clean. You put your funnel, you put the resin. After you do that, people I've seen online that they start either scratching it or cleaning the wrong way their tiny container where you put the resin. The best thing, it has a button that is a cleaning button where you have UV light going completely across most of the screen. So we'll cure that layer of resin that you have there. I find out that I have to put it 2 or sometimes 3 times if thing is too much that I had left over, depending on your like this one. This I fell completely of the Batman. This was supposed to be like this, and it didn't come out. This is the only thing that came out from the printing. I put it like several times and it just peels off. I'm gonna show you some photos, but really easy if you put it like 1, 2 twice or even 3 times, and it will just peel off, and it will be so much easier to cleaning than trying to clean it without doing that. Without doing that, it's gonna be a nightmare. And you just need to make sure that you clean it, that you didn't spill anything, that nothing is on the real screen. What I do is my water, I put some of this and I filter and I try to get rid of the resin in the trash. The reality is that resin is not really eco-friendly. Actually, I was surprised just before doing this video. I found out that Lego, they create a best plan resin. So I may try it in the future because yeah, resin is not friendly with nature. Now I want to talk about some of the reasons why some print fails. And they say that 90% of the time is because the printer is not level. Actually, I wanted to have my printer during this whole video to show it right here, but I mean, the reality, I was lazy and I didn't want to take my printer from the corner and bring it here, because I know, and I've seen it with some of my failed prints, that even if you move a little bit your printer, most likely you're going to have to level your printer. It has to be level, and that's really important. It's really easy, you know? Pretty much most of the resin printers, they already are set up. They're already ready almost to just plug in. The only thing you have to do is unbox it. You have to unscrew the top part of your printer. It's gonna kind of wiggle. That's gonna be the plate where your piece is gonna be printed. You just have to turn it on. It has a button that says level, and it will come down. You put a piece of paper to protect your screen. When it stops, you just put your hand to make sure that it's not moving, and just screw everything back up, and it's ready. And it's ready. So it's really simple. It doesn't take much. So you can actually move it wherever you want, but you have to know that at least in my experience, even if it hasn't been that long, for sure you will have to re-level every single time you move your printer. And one other thing that I want to talk about is that the printer can be level, can be completely level. And I was surprised about this because I didn't really thought about it. But I don't know if it is my floor, my carpet, or the table where I have it. But definitely it's not level. My printer is level, but not where I put it. So there's many ways to fix that. I'm not using the best one, but I use the ancient technique, and I put just a piece of paper, newspaper, folded, and I put it in the corner. And it's actually, since I did that, it printed. That's just another thing to think about it. And another thing that I didn't even know, it was the temperature. I live in a place where it gets really cold. You can even freeze things. Okay, maybe not like this, but it's snow and it gets really cold. And I didn't know that for having the best print that you can, the best temperature is at least to be 75 Fahrenheit and up, or 23, 24 Celsius and up. That will give you a better print. So if you live in a place where it's really cold, I've seen people getting a small heater or putting things around. The reality for me, the only thing I did, I have this in a basement. I bump up my heat of the house while I was printing. Even if upstairs was 90 degrees, I was 76, 77 over here, and that's one of the things that I did in my case. And now talking about temperature, it's really important that sometimes your printer fails how long you put your layers under the light. So this could affect, and more if it is really cold, you need to leave the light longer. Or if the temperature is not a problem for you, maybe your settings is still not having the layer exposed that long. So that's something to think about it. My printer, I really like that it has a screen that I can right away in the printer do the settings. I'm gonna leave here on the screen. These are my settings. That doesn't mean that they're gonna work for you, but it could be a starting point. Basically, I have this one. This one I think I kind of show how I slice it, but this is the fail. It didn't print. It's supposed to be this Batman. It's supposed to be like this. But something that we have to think about is that the printer every layer gets glued to the bottom, so the printer has to push to unglue it from the bottom, and have to do that for each layer. So depending if the layers are weak, it could be why your print is failing. One other thing is the supports. This one, the reality, I think they were really weak supports, and that's why the print didn't work. Some people say that actually it doesn't really matter. It depends more on where you put the supports. I still need to do more investigation and more tries on that. But that could be one of the reasons why your prints fail, not the supports too. One of the other thing is how your piece is posed. This one, the reality, didn't work. And instead of changing the support, The only thing is I did it like this without the support, and it worked perfectly. Well, kind of. If it is not working, I will just move your piece maybe a little bit. I'm trying to think to give you all the tips that I can remember that worked for me. One last thing is we're talking about how long to expose your layer. So how you know that? Well, there's this model that I really like. I haven't used it, but I like because it's a small, it's thin, you don't waste too much resin, but it has a lot of design. So basically the way it works is that you have to print it as many times as you need to, but every time that you print, you play with your settings, and the more you see the details, the more sharp is your print. That means that you are calibrating your printer the right way, and your other prints will hopefully be fine. So I'm gonna leave that in the description too. Pretty much that's it. Thank you for watching until the end of this video. I know it was a little bit long. If you wanna know a little bit more about 3D printers, now I find out that even cheaper one than the one that I have, that it looks like it does amazing job, that probably I'm gonna get it just because some people doing 3D print, they have several printers because it's just if you want to create multiple projects, or if you want to create something big and you want to have 2 printers at the same time doing those parts, it's just more useful and faster. So we'll see. But if you have any comments, please leave it below. Subscribe. YouTube is telling me that 80% of the people that watch my videos, they are not subscribed. And help me out. Enjoy art. Enjoy 3D print. I'm gonna leave you with some of my digital art that I've done in Blender. Remember, still a beginner, but anyone can use this program, so that's why I want to share it now, because if you're interested, you can be the next one creating things. So see you next time.